Welcome to another episode of Topical with Michael Shafar. My guest today is the very funny James McCann. We have a great chat about Australia purchasing some submarines from the US. They'll be ready by 2040, which is perfect timing for when the sea levels do rise and Alice Springs becomes a waterfront property destination. Plus, we chat about drag queens and how they might be the only way to improve literacy levels amongst Australian kids. I've got shows coming up at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, the Sydney Comedy Festival, Brisbane Comedy Festival, plus Darwin, Gold Coast, Frankston, Narre Warren, Bayswater, all on sale. London and Edinburgh, they'll be announced soon. Head to my website, michaelshafar.com. But now, let's get into the best intro music in the business. And when we're back, it'll be James McCann and me talking about the news.
That's one small step for podcasts. One giant leap for comedy.
We are stripped down and ready to go.
I'll never surrender.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Please explain.
I'm going to. Okay?
Got a lot of cornflakes in the teeth. It was the muesli. The muesli was an error. What's happening in the news?
James McCann, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Honor, privilege.
Thanks for eating some cornflakes before we started.
Thanks for giving them to me and not making that weird.
Yes. Mate, lots going on in the news right now. I want to get your opinion on a big sub deal that's happening in Australia. AUKUS, baby. You're going to love this. They're building
I love
the
subs. But frankly, I think they've become more narrow with inflation. I don't think the Subway people are using as much bread as they used to.
Oh, I was talking about submarines, but you thought I was talking about Subway.
I was joking. I knew you were talking about the submarines.
Right.
I was across it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too late. It's too little. We're done.
What do you mean we're done?
We have no proper nuclear deterrent.
Oh, but these, just so you know, these nuclear subs are not like shooting nuclear missiles. They're just powered by nuclear energy.
I know. It's a terrible, terrible mistake.
Oh, they should have nuclear
We
missiles.
should have nuclear weapons as a country.
Is that because China is coming for us all?
If they want it, they can have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read a little book called Tomorrow When the War Began.
I actually haven't.
I know that's not China. I think that's Indonesia who comes to invade us then.
Oh, is that what that book's about?
But I don't see how we can...
Is that a documentary?
No, it's just a fevered fantasy about how the country's going to fall. But, I mean, all of our important sites are on the coast. We have no proper fighting force.
Well, there's Uluru in the center of the country. That's quite a sacred site. So
we fall back to Uluru.
That could be where our last stand is as a country.
It's where, I mean...
unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to even go on top of Uluru because it's a sacred site. It'd be wrong to do that. But I imagine in time of war, maybe we'd get permission from the local custodians.
A discussion would have to be had.
Guys, the Chinese are coming.
I just
we need to hide somewhere.
How do you seriously think that if Australia is attacked with a land invasion, America doesn't have the capability? Say that Taiwan goes first, right? And America, as well as being wrapped up in the Ukrainian conflict,
can I just say, if I were China, don't do Taiwan first.
Oh no, do us first.
That's too obvious. Everyone's expecting that.
Yeah.
Australia first, Taiwan tomorrow.
This is what. Did you read that?
No.
No, that's what our top military people are saying.
Oh, so are you telling me that I've just stumbled onto a top secret
this
classified
is people better in the know than me, so there's like a 40% chance that the top end of Australia cops are hiding
first before Taiwan.
Yeah, to knock us out so that we don't provide support.
That's firstly definitely going to happen. What I'm also thinking is that given that's probably going to happen soon, do you think the submarines... I tend to agree with your assessment. Too little too late, because these subs aren't going to be ready apparently until 2040. And I think going into a deal that doesn't come to fruition until 2040 is very optimistic.
Well, we get replacement. We get a stand-in, right? This is the merit of it, as I understand it.
Yeah. Can you run me through the argument of having
My
these
understanding
subs?
is that the Americans are going to give us rental submarines until our submarines are built. At which point, so we will have. I don't understand that.
It's
kind
of like when you write
because I assume that they already would be sending submarines to help us in the first place.
Well, at least we've already got...
Hopefully,
imagine it's like
crossed.
so basically it's kind of like if you write off your car,
Yeah.
like Amy Car Insurance will
They
give you a replacement car until your car is ready.
Quality replacement vehicle.
So that's what America has done. They said, hey, you'll have these subs in 20 years' time. Until then, here's like a Honda Civic to kind of keep
so you
going.
can go about your business.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, it's still a ploy, obviously, on the Americans' part to get us to spend more in our own defence, which they've wanted for ages.
Yeah.
But it's working, right? Because it is a threat.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess my question is, should we all just start learning Mandarin? Because at
So
this
quick to
point,
get up the fight.
well, I mean, I'm not going to fight,
Shane, you're an relatively able-bodied man.
mate.
I don't think you.
I don't have
qualify to
any
get out of
combat
the draft
skills.
with a disability.
I don't have any combat skills.
Not yet. We'll get you doing semaphore. You'll be up in a tower. It'll be beautiful. It's hard, man. I don't know. I genuinely we've got to enjoy it while we can. Maybe it's all just a big ruse, and the industrial complex just wants to make more money, and we're just being.
It could just be fear mongering from the media.
Yeah.
So that we all think it's good to spend money on submarines. Creates jobs. So people in Adelaide are going to be building the submarines. You're going to love that.
I mean, theoretically, do I? No, that's
Mate,
not real. It's not a real industry.
You're not-
Adelaide has been propped up. Let me tell you a little thing about the economy of Adelaide. We've been propped up by national manufacturing. Years, and it always collapses, and it doesn't lead to any proper growth. It doesn't lead to any other industries. Then the cars go, Holden goes, you're done.
So you don't
Submarines
think-
go, you're done.
You don't think the submarines are going to...
I don't think we're going to parlay that into a better, more interesting.
You're not going to become like the premier submarine manufacturing city in the world?
It strikes me as unlikely that will happen. I mean, we know what we can do. We're a very stable landmass. We have all the uranium. We should dig up and bury the uranium.
Australia should dig up and bury the uranium.
South Australia should be burying the uranium and break off from the rest of the country, and we would be rich as
Oh, so you should...
we
South
could be
Australia...
the UAE
of the Southeast
subcontinent,
Asia. Oh, yeah, interesting. Wait, so why don't we use the uranium? Are we using the uranium to power the subs?
huge political fallout. I think we are using the. I don't know.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if we weren't. But
what you're
huge
saying is-
every time you try and touch nuclear material in Australia,
People don't like it.
I hate it.
Do you think it's because Chernobyl, the TV series, was so successful here?
Well, I don't know how that would have stopped Hawkeye doing something about it.
Right.
Although
That was before Chernobyl.
Actual Chernobyl might have. What year was Chernobyl?
19, surprisingly
do know?
recent.
Yeah.
I think it was
90s.
1980 something.
Okay. There's great footage of Hawkeye who was pro-nuclear.
Okay.
Trying to bring that in, and his own party rejected
Before
it.
Chernobyl.
Yeah, I think I'm getting this right.
Good time to be pro-nuclear before Chernobyl. People
How-
were very
How come we
pro-nuclear.
could never get it across the line?
I don't know. I wasn't
I'm
around.
fascinated.
Well, I
New
think that-
Zealanders really hate it. They will not allow our nuclear submarines to dock there, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, they
What, in
don't-
case they blow up?
I think they're like nothing nuclear is coming anywhere near our shore.
Can I just say, Australia, if there's any country in the world
Hmm.
that's going to make nuclear submarines that are then going to explode in Australia,
You think we'd fuck it up?
100% it's
Yeah.
us. Like,
They've made it interesting.
there's no other country that would almost certainly blow
No,
itself
but it'd
up.
be great. It'd blow up just the right time with Stephen Bradbury at parked in
right before the
harbour of
Chinese.
our enemy.
Right before, maybe that's why we
Or
need the
whoever
submarines.
our enemy turns out to be. Maybe long term we're going to have a deal with the Chinese. I don't know.
It could be.
But if we're going to become a third wave power, every effort Australia has had to become an independent third wave power has collapsed.
What's a third wave power?
Oh, like a third world.
I mean, I know because I'm not an idiot, but
well,
I'm sure my moronic
not
listeners...
aligned with the Soviets or the United States. I think this is what.
Oh, so like
think
an
that-
independent power, basically.
Yeah, so I'm thinking. I mean, all of them suck. I mean, our reputation of them sucks. But something like Cuba.
You want Australia to become Cuba,
I think that's what Whitlam was really trying for
right?
with that pipeline deal.
Okay,
Energy independent, kick the Yanks out. We set our own foreign policy.
right, and then we
He failed.
we've
He was
got-
removed.
and we've got a lot of similarities. Cuba has no internet. Australia has very poor internet.
Very affordable housing in Cuba.
Yes,
That's a big difference.
that's a big difference. Okay,
Huge laws about who's allowed to own a home and under what circumstances. And as a result, you can buy a home in Cuba. I mean, for that alone, it doesn't look as much like a hellscape as it's made out to be. Also, they never got modern cars.
yeah, they're
So
still
they don't
driving
have
around
to
in
put up with
Cadillacs.
that. Beautiful.
Mate, this is why I get you on the podcast because you know so many things about so many topics.
Pro Cadillac.
You're pro Cadillac.
You get me on the Cadillac, I'm all about it. I want one that does this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
For the people who are just listening and not enjoying the visual, James McCann is doing some waves with his
Eddie
forearm.
Guerrero style stuff.
Yeah, it's
Did
beautiful.
you ever watch wrestling?
Eddie Guerrero?
Yeah.
Oh, he was the little guy with the mask.
No.
Oh, I'm thinking of someone else.
Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio.
Eddie Guerrero died very young.
Oh.
Lie, cheat, steal. Overcame drug use. They were always not clear about what the drugs were.
I mean, it's steroids,
I
right?
could definitely look it up. No, I think it's recreation.
Oh, okay.
I don't think anyone's getting checked for,
Well, it's obviously
to unwind at the end of the
it's either
day.
that or the COVID vaccine. I mean, it's either one of those two things.
My one great regret
Getting the COVID vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you regret it? Jeez, this conversation just took a real turn.
I didn't want it. I didn't want it.
Well, no one wanted it.
Some people wanted it. A lot of people wanted it.
Well, I think most people would want to not have a COVID.
Sure. But it did not stop people getting COVID.
Oh, I mean, it helped a bit. It helped.
I think the CEO of Pfizer is now going, if you don't have 72 of them, the spread doesn't.
I'm up to
slow.
12. I'm up to 12.
I'm
baby.
giving up today.
I've got low immunity. I had my 5th the other day. It's great. I'm loving
I
it.
mean,
5 doses, 5G. I'm up to the...
I congratulate you for going whole hog and getting in with it.
I'm
But
committing.
I didn't want to have it,
say, if
and
you
I had
only-
it because they wouldn't let me in pubs. They wouldn't
Yeah,
let me in pubs. They wouldn't let me leave the country.
Yeah.
And so I buckled down. But
Yeah.
if you want the test of will you stand up to the state when it's pushing something on you, that's the one.
And you would not stand up to the stage.
Not in a second. No.
No.
No. If they make my life slightly inconvenient, I buckle.
Can I just say, the only people I respect
Mm.
are people who did not get the vax at all and committed to their position.
God bless them.
And people who get every
single
fucking
vax.
dose.
I agree.
Because those are the only two people who are consistent in their opinions.
Yep.
If you've had 2 or 3 or even 4 doses...
And then you've stopped.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
You have given up on your principles.
I would say that's a mean thing for a man who's siding with the power of the state to roll over people and crush them.
I am pro rolling over people and crushing them.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about the morality and integrity of the individual here. That
Sure, I
if
mean,
you
you're pointing
believe
out
something-
that some people broke, right? Some people were
Yeah.
broke on the wheel by the
And they're-
state,
and
and
they're
then you're
pussies.
mocking them for having done that.
Yeah, they're absolute cowards.
Look, I agree. I think we should have risen up and
what I'm saying to your face
stopped
is
the
that,
politicians from doing that.
Well,
But yeah, I have to live with that.
but you're
I
a
regret
coward
it.
and you're a scumbag.
That's why it's a regret.
So, but you got the vaccine.
I got to, yeah.
But like when you say you regret it,
Yes. I wish
you-
I had not taken the untested chemical that the state.
Oh, is that
gave
because
us.
you're concerned about long-term side effects?
Well, short-term side effects.
Have you had short-term side effects?
I have some tightness of the chest, but I definitely know young men in their 30s who are dead, and people don't know why.
Right.
It's a myocarditis, pericarditis. Maybe it was the maybe it was the illness. It's
This is
probably
very
illness.
quickly turning
It
into
probably,
a
no, I'm
Joe
just saying-
Rogan
no, I'm just
podcast.
saying, they were probably when
We're
they
gonna-
get the autopsy back, they don't say this was the vaccine that did it. They go, who can say why this young healthy man died in
Don't-
his sleep in his 30s?
Don't young healthy people often die?
In their sleep in their 30s?
Sometimes.
Seldom. I mean,
Hasn't that been happening for ages?
put it this way: if you died in your sleep this week,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to know what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I probably there'd be a multitude of
Some
potential
people
reasons.
do. Look, and there is definitely an extent to which people, the anti-vax people, will run with any random death. People do randomly die sometimes.
Yeah, like so you know the guy Damar Hamlin, the NFL player.
Okay.
Oh, it was a huge story a few weeks ago.
I believe you.
Middle of the game, he
Yes,
collapses.
no, I
middle
did
of the
see that.
game.
Yeah,
It was-
yeah.
I think he was playing for the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
And anti-vaxxers were like, "This is an absolute godsend."
Yes.
Because all of a sudden
Cynical.
they've got
You're a
this.
cynical man.
I'm cynical.
You're a cynical
Well,
man.
all of a sudden they've got this huge, high-profile example of
Yeah.
a young, healthy male collapsing, but he probably
Michael, they've
would have
got
died
so
if they weren't.
many examples
I'm sure there are
of
so many.
athletes collapsing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, but you know,
And even
athletes
then,
die all the time.
I don't think there's a ruse. I don't think. Yeah, athletes well known for their broken, brittle bodies that
Always
collapse on themselves.
dying.
I don't think there's conspircy.
The guy who just
On the
invented the
vaccine?
Fosbury flop, he
Did
just
he just
recently
have a-
died. He's dead.
He was 106.
He was 76.
He shouldn't have been flopping at that age.
Yeah. Do you know how they got him in the coffin?
Oh please.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to. That's too hack a joke.
It's
But-
It was untested.
well, it was kind of a bit tested.
It was tested
They'd-
very broadly.
no, it
They'd
was-
given it to a lot of people.
They'd given it to the
but
British.
in terms of the amount of time they did.
It started with the British and the Israelis.
I was
So-
going. I didn't want to go there, but yes, Michael.
No, go there. The
Well, that was one
Israelis
of the
got
things-
Pfizer first because
I think that's the best example
Because-
against this. Like, there's a Jewish conspiracy. They're trying to kill us all. It's like everyone in Israel was given 3 before anyone else.
They got it first. It's
Yeah.
'cause I believe that Netanyahu struck a deal with Pfizer and said, "You guys give us the thing first,
Yeah.
and we'll let you kind of have all the data about side effects,
We wouldn't
and
do it.
efficacy, and things like that." So the Israelis were like, "Yeah, we'll fucking take it." But I back in the Israelis. I think they know what they're talking about. I mean, half the
Yes.
population are Nobel Prize laureates and doctors. So if anyone knows anything about a vaccine, it's going to be the Israelis. And so they got it first, and then we kind of just observed them, and we're like, okay, let's see what happens there. Then it went to the British, and we were like, let's watch what happens with the British.
Absolutely.
And we were like, oh my God, they're all very ugly. Is that vaccine related, or is that just genetics?
They've just always been this way.
But they've always been ugly. And then we were like, okay, so far so good. We'll just give it to everyone else now.
That is the way we rolled it out.
Yeah.
That is correct.
There's nothing that's completely accurate. And
But we did not observe them, I would say, for very long.
for long enough.
Well, it was a new thing.
Well, and
And
what's
breath is not a substitute for time.
What's the alternative? You just wait several years.
Lock the country down,
we
Japan style in the 1700s, and have your own unique culture with no one coming or going.
Yeah, but no one
for
wanted to do that.
150 years. I wanted to do that.
You wanted to do that. I
desperately
mean, you want to do that in South Australia.
I'm an isolationist in all ways, at all times. Yeah, we could have locked it down. We could have watched. We could have waited and watched. We decided to have. Look, I don't even care about the virus and the death. It's the state control.
Right. So what you're saying
That
is
gets a bee under my bum.
you don't like the state control of being forced to take a vaccine, but you do endorse the state control of being locked in your house.
No, I didn't. No, not locked in my house.
But you're preferring a lockdown.
Not locked in the house.
So locked in your state or country.
Oh, no. We never should have been locked at home.
But you're saying Australia should just lock down.
We should have locked out for longer.
Locked out for longer.
Yes.
Right.
Hard border, Fortress Australia, not in my
Build the
backyard.
wall.
Build the wall.
Build a dome bubble around
New
the
cliffs
country.
of Dover, right here in down under.
And that could have...
So much
that would also
coastline.
potentially stop the Chinese from invading. Big bubble, big wall.
I welcome the Chinese invaders and the order and structure that they'll put on our lives.
Ni hao and share to our Chinese listeners. And please, when you come for us all, remember this conversation that we had and how much we endorse Xi Jinping and the CCP and...
Michael always getting himself in with the state. You love power.
I love being...
You love being close to power.
I love being
Are you
close
still
to
working
power.
for the project?
Yeah, I'm there 2 days a week, yes.
Look at that. Suckling on the teat of power.
I can't comment on this on my own podcast.
You
I'm
can't,
too-
but
I'm
I
too
can.
close to it.
You can sit and complain and comment.
Can I
What's
actually- can
happening
I-
with
can-
Waleed doing welcomes to country at the start of each episode? When did that start up? I only see this because I want to watch Australian Survivor, so I have to watch sometimes a little bit of the project, and then I
Okay, they've
watch a little more
been
of the
doing it
project,
for...
watch a little more, and I'm watching the start, and then Waleed's doing a welcome to country.
Can I just say, it is very funny when people complain about the show and they always write and say, I never watched the project. However,
I
was
did
waiting
briefly.
for the amazing race to begin. And so I turned
I
on the
think that's on your
TV
network.
an hour before or whatever
Yeah.
it was. You know, I turned on the TV at
I get pulled
6:30.
in. Danielle Walker's on. She's being very charismatic. She's a very funny person. Maybe I'll
very
watch
funny.
a little more.
Well,
I wonder what
exactly.
Tom Cashman's doing. How is
are
Michael
some-
Hing on this show and hosting radio at the same time? Has he got a time turner? What's
Can I
going
say,
on?
the show is doing really well in bringing in new comedians, giving them a platform, if you ask me. Can I ask you about your opinion on, I mean, obviously the Ruben K joke,
Yeah.
caused a big stir.
Here's why I think he had to apologise.
Right.
Is I think is more because it was offensive to Muslims.
Yeah, can you walk me through that? I was blown away by that. I had no idea that so Muslims love Jesus, or they believe
love
that
him.
Jesus is a prophet.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, a very highly revered prophet.
So-
Mary
and-
gets more lines in the Quran than she does in the Gospels.
Wow.
Yeah, Mary's a big deal.
And people say that Islam is not a pro-woman religion, but then she's getting all these more lines in the Quran than in the Bible.
Okay, sort of, but it's interesting where she doesn't get lines in the Quran.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe this. I don't know. I don't want to take us on a big weird aside, but
You don't want to get a fatwa, is what you're saying.
well, no. I mean, I think people would agree that there are differences between the Christian and the Muslim conceptions of God and the
Okay.
role that people have. But there's a bit in the Gospels where the angel appears to Mary and says, "You're going to get pregnant and she basically goes, all right, let that happen to me. And the way that that's read is she's being asked a question. Is this cool? And she's giving a yes. She's saying, yeah, let's make that happen. In the Quran, she's just sort of told, this is happening now.
Right, okay. So you're saying that her agency is kind of like taken away from her somewhat in that circumstance.
I think that a Muslim's conception of God is different in the way that there's not necessarily the same room for dialogue. In the same way that only in Christianity does God become man.
Yes.
And so you can talk to man, and he's a man like you.
Yes.
But that's as a Jewish understanding of that,
Yes.
contemporary Jewish understanding of that,
Yes.
anathema,
Okay.
that you could talk to God as though he were a fella.
Yeah, well, can I ask you about your thoughts on God's pronouns? Because the Church of England has come out and said,
Yeah.
we're now going with they, them. Oh, we want to go with they, them.
I think they, them is actually, when talking about the Trinity, sort of funny and kind of accurate. But because God
there is three of
God is
them.
family. It's
you got to use the plural.
But yeah, I mean, the Church of England has been to hell in a handbasket for forever, man.
Oh, are they a bad church?
I'm not saying a bad church, but they're a heretical church. They're splitting up. They're schisming right now. I used to be Church of England, and I got out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So does that mean you would refer to God as he? You would say he, him instead of they, them.
Well, Christ is a he.
Okay, sure.
He's pretty open about being he.
He's open about being a
And
he.
God the Father, you'd think, I mean, unless it's one of those hip new daddies that they've got nowadays, that's probably a he.
Do they ever comment on the
Holy Spirit's
genitals
up there.
of God in the Bible? Are they ever like, and then on the seventh day, God created a massive penis for himself? Is there anything like that
He wouldn't
in
have done that on the
Genesis?
seventh day.
Probably day one.
Well, no, I
would've
mean,
thought.
he wouldn't have had a corporeal form in the garden.
Well, I guess that's my point. Yeah. In that case, you
your
can't
point.
say he's. Yeah, that's my
It's an
point.
interesting theological question. I mean, I don't know, but I think it's left as a theological question because the Gospels are all done as eyewitness accounts, but we don't get any descriptions of the physical appearance of Christ. And I think this is purposefully to make him universal to the tall, the short, the thin, the fat, the white, the brown, the small of penis, the large of penis.
That
We
is
all
so
are
true.
one in Christ.
So what you're saying is that your religion is perfect for any man with a small penis.
And men with big penises. I'm saying we're non-exclusionary for the crippled in the genital department. Absolutely. And for women. Women can be in there too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I ask you your thoughts on? We're at the Adelaide Fringe at the moment.
Yeah.
Drag queens all over the place. I'm a big
Sure.
fan of them.
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. You're not just saying that?
I think they're fun.
You're up to date on RuPaul's Drag Race? You're a big fan of drag queens? You got posters in your room?
I'm
Yeah.
not watching the show, but I see them around the streets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is great.
You've decided they're your political allies and you're tolerating the performance that they
Mate,
do?
I'm always power
You are a
adjacent.
snarky intellectual. I think there's probably nothing in a drag show that fires off dopamine for you. Okay, it's a fella with big lipstick on.
I'm not saying-
Yes, I imagine that. Imagine Michael standing at the back of the room. Yes, Queen.
I've never.
Slay, bitch.
I say that all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I've got a tattoo of that. No, I've never seen a drag show. I'm just saying the drag queens I think are a bit of fun. Just
Yeah.
seeing them around
Great
the streets.
charisma, great
It's
personality.
great to see them like outside of the context of a
Sometimes.
show. Because I'm seeing them walking down like Rundle Mall at the moment.
I love seeing RuPaul in a suit being snarky and say, I do not dress up except for money.
Right.
It's like, becomes very businesslike. I love it.
I like that. But everyone's, well, this is very much an American concern, but it's seeping into Australian culture as well. People
Sure.
are worried about drag queens reading stories to their children.
I mean, part of me is just happy that someone in Australia is spreading literacy among the young. But yeah, I mean, it's a sexual thing. It's obviously a sexual thing.
Is it sexual?
Drag queens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like...
It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't sexual.
Right. But like, I mean, when they're reading a book to a kid, is that
It's like
sexual?
yeah.
I think it depends what book they're reading. What if they're reading like...
No. The act of being in drag is playing with sex and
How?
inflamed. How?
Just wearing a dress.
Having big fake titties and your dick tucked behind your legs and a full face of fuck me makeup? How could that possibly be sexual?
I think you're...
Wearing a big vamp wig
Wait, aren't you imposing...
and fishnets? No, I'm not imposing. These are things that are based on... I don't want to get all Jordan Peterson about it. But there are certain things about physical allurement, about pouty lips, big titties, big ass, eyeliner. Sometimes you just see someone in eyeliner and you go, wow.
Okay.
Eyeliner's enough, let alone rouge that's meant to make you look flushed like you've got a sopping wet pussy ready to receive monster cock. Yes, it's sexual. It's so transparently sexual.
Okay, so would you be okay with a drag queen who isn't sexual and who a
What?
drag...
Oh yeah, just a bloke dressed up like with a short haircut and a lanyard on his way to Bunnings.
Is that fine? Is that okay?
Yeah, and you tell me when you see the Doc Martin wearing drag queen ready to do story hour.
I mean, I think there's room for that as well. I mean, but do you think the question is, are kids being sexualized by it? Because if you're a child, you don't associate fishnets with sex. That's just something you learn as an adult
Okay.
from seeing movies and things.
No,
I'm just not sure if children
No,
are
it's
putting...
not.
Are children connecting the dots?
And children connecting the dots.
Are they looking at this person and going, oh, this person is sexualized?
Why are we trying to connect those dots for them?
Well, I don't think we're trying to connect the dots at all.
What do you mean?
I mean, because the
Well,
argument
but why
is-
they having? Do you know how many people want to get up and read to children? It's an unpleasant experience.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
What, isn't it a good thing that the drag queens are like just take... I mean, if that's the price, I'm not saying that they are sexualizing kids, but if that is the cost of business, that kids learn to read, and sure, they might be learning a bit too much about sex at a young age, if that seems to be like a good trade-off, doesn't it?
Mate, I don't wear shorts when I drop off my child at kindy. There's a dress code. There's a way
Right.
that you behave around children. There's a sacred nature to children.
Right. Okay. So you're just saying that drag queens should abide by the same dress code that...
No, I never think about drag story time.
Okay.
I have no big
not
take on
concerned.
it.
But
But
if-
it's obvious.
okay,
I mean,
you've
but
got
it is
kids.
obviously sexual.
But you've got kids.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put you in the situation.
But also, like, I wouldn't take my son to a strip club. Now, titties are not sexual to my son. That's where the food comes from. But it's like, but why wouldn't you have him play in a ball pit while there's thumping four-to-the-floor music and a laser going off and Daphne's twizzling her bits around? Well, I don't know
Why
why I
not?
wouldn't.
I mean,
but it wouldn't occur to me to do it. Is what
Well,
I'm saying.
that's better than leaving them in a hot car outside.
I don't know if they're only in the hot car for a little bit sometimes. That is something you do have to navigate as a parent.
Don't worry, kids. Daddy's not going to be long inside the strip club. I'll crack a window. I'll be back
Did
soon.
you see the guy who went to the masseuse?
Who went to the masseuse?
There was a big story about a guy who
he went to a masseuse.
he went to a masseuse and left
the
his kids in the hot car.
Oh, that's
and he was there for like
beautiful.
an hour. Yeah,
It took him an hour.
maybe she was no good. Man. I don't know.
That's a terrible review for that masseuse.
Yeah, my kids are dead. But why would it occur to me to do something that has a sexual overtone with my children?
Okay, so this is my
question. But how would I even dream that up?
Oh, I'm not saying you would dream it up. So I'm saying this is the scenario. This is the scenario. You send your children to a school.
Okay.
The kids at that school one day.
That's a big if.
One day, the school says, "Oh, we're inviting a drag queen in from the Adelaide Fringe because the Fringe is on, and we want to do some community outreach."
I'll tell you my biggest complaint here: how come the drag queens are always being asked to promote the Adelaide Fringe and get people to sell 1 million tickets and be the face of the Adelaide Fringe? I'm selling more tickets than a lot of these drag queens.
Sure.
How come the Fringe isn't getting me on the blower and
to go and read books?
Why
to
don't
children?
you become an associate of the Adelaide Fringe? How can we push you?
Well,
how can we make your career work?
Why
are they only interested in helping the drag queens sell tickets? Excuse me, I have to move my car because it's parked outside. I told you we were going to need more than an hour. You said park here, park in the hour slot. I've got 5 minutes to get this thought out. Here's my complaint.
Yeah, go for it.
Why is the Fringe using my money that I'm paying to them to register the show and taking big ticket fees, not to help me, not to help stand-up comedy? They've got you. I'm shocked that you're on their side trying to weasel up to power. They've got you in a fucking
Why are you
on a
shocked?
hill
I'm
outside again. And instead, the worst drag queen, the least fierce. People who can't even do that thing where you jump up and do your hair around and land on the splits, and they're pushing them. Weak C+ drag queens who couldn't even qualify for Drag Race Down Under. Tell me why they're getting the support and not me is what I want to know.
Well, do you think it's maybe because of all the things you've said on this podcast?
They haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure they will at some point. Now let me move this card.
Last thing I want to ask you about the Oscars.
Okay.
I don't know why they exist, but I just wonder if they need to exist. And I wonder why the rich, famous people need an event for more attention. I would have thought that just being in like big budget movies.
It's all part of the machine. It's part of the machine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that it's the machine just oiling itself.
Yeah.
But do you think...
and until it's an actively threatening the machine, you hold on to it.
Do you watch it?
Why does The Simpsons have another season? I did not watch it.
No one watches the Oscars. Do you think that if
I don't think anyone... I used to watch it. I used to enjoy watching it, actually, when television existed.
Okay.
Man, I watched the Grammys last year when I was going under for a circumcision. And I was all fucked up watching some country music thing in favor of Ukraine.
Sorry.
Like, what's going on?
You're like, has the anesthetic...
It was incredible. It was like, I was about to... They were telling me, like, we're going to knock you out. You might still be able to feel pain. And I was like, what? And I'm just like... haven't eaten.
Well, you brought up you had a circumcision last year.
Yeah, hold on. The Oscars.
Yes.
Are you going to tie that in?
Ironically,
back to the Oscars?
I cut you off there.
Yeah. Very good. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
That's why people listen to this podcast.
Give that one over to the project. They're going to love that.
Well, I was just going to say with the Oscars, do you like the fact that now they do a lot of political speeches? I mean, it's been going for a while now, but they do political speeches.
They used to boo him, right? Like Michael Moore got booed when he went after Bush.
Right.
Remembrance. Am I remembering that correctly?
I know that that sounds like something he would do.
Yeah.
But I think people get booed for doing it and people get mocked for doing political speeches. I think that you should have to do a political speech every time you accept an award. You should have to crowbar in something to make this serve some benefit to society. Because right now the Oscars adds no value to the world. other than here
Mate, it's
is...
just about representation. It's like, look at this beautiful cast of Asian people who've made a mediocre film, and we're celebrating them with a little gold statue.
Do you know what would
to
be...
show that even Asian people making a mediocre film can be celebrated?
Do you know what would be true representation? Ugly people winning stuff. They're all beautiful. I want to see ugly people winning
I think
awards.
One ugly actor. It's hard.
It's hard. They're all beautiful. They're good looking, and they've all obviously gotten a lot of work done to ensure they remain beautiful and good looking for as long as possible.
There are ugly character actors like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
Has he ever won an Oscar?
I don't know.
I don't think he has.
But he's like that.
Could be wrong.
Steve Buscemi is the one ugly actor
why it's
that they
the
can
name I can
point
think
to
of. Yeah.
and say, "But we have an uggo over there, so we
But
are
even
inclusive."
then, if you ever met Steve Buscemi, you'd be like, "Fuck, that's the most charismatic man."
You'd probably want to fuck him.
Yeah.
What we need,
William Dafoe playing the weird-looking ugly villain. If you met William Dafoe, you'd be like, "William
Incredible.
Dafoe." I heard his dick was so big that he needed a stunt double. He needed a stunt dick.
What?
I don't know. It came up on an Instagram search function.
Willem Dafoe.
William Dafoe's dick was so big in this movie, they had to have a smaller stunt penis because people would be distracted by how big William Dafoe's hog was. That's what I've seen. I don't know if that's true.
Well, I remember watching Spider-Man as a child.
Yes.
And I remember him as the Green Goblin. He had a bulge, that's for sure.
Come on, that cock. Excuse me. Excuse me.
But that would be true diversity if they just had... They should just get more... that would really be good for the Oscars if they had uggos winning awards, because right now it's beautiful people. It doesn't represent the
fetish
audience.
for power and ugliness.
Yeah, those are my two.
I don't want to live in your world.
Those are my two core values: ugliness and power. Those are the two things I just want to see more
I
of
just
in the
want
world.
beautiful strength.
But that's what. But that's what they need to do with the Oscars. I think we need more ugly people, but also, yeah, I think it's good to have a speech because, again, it doesn't achieve anything, the Oscars in and of itself. So people get shitty when like they ever bring in like a political stance.
No, it's greatness, right? It's meant to be about great. It's meant to celebrate excellence, so that people work harder to achieve excellence, so that it's associated with respect, so that greatness and respect. This goes way back to the Greeks doing plays, and you would award. Sophocles, your play was excellent.
Right.
Sophocles doesn't then stand up and accept his award and go, look, actually, I think we've got to do something about Sparta. If he wants to do that, he puts it in the play. But no, we should definitely celebrate greatness in the arts.
Okay.
And this is why I get very annoyed when not very good drag queens are getting given awards in the Adelaide Fringe. Give it to the good drag queens, the ones who are working hard, who don't always say the politically expedient thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No. I've noticed a lot of this podcast is coming back to the drag queens.
No, you started it. How often are you getting awards in the comedy business?
I've never had an award in the comedy
Exactly. You
business.
work very hard. You're putting good shows together. Why not?
I don't want awards.
Who's getting the award? No. Hold on. But you know, that's not the metric on which you get the award. They don't come along and go, by the way, did you want this one? That's beside the point. You want to do a good show. You want to work hard on the show.
I think for me, like the whole point of comedy is to just do something that people enjoy. They like it. They come back. They tell a friend.
I agree.
That's the award at the end of the day.
That is the award.
laughter and joy of my audience.
But let's not pretend there's
award.
not also an industry that can bring you to a bigger audience faster.
But I would rather be in control of that myself and do it myself.
Sure, and you are, and you take charge of that, and you have to, because they're not giving you the award.
But even if I was getting awards, I don't think it would make any difference to me.
You don't think it would make any difference to you?
Not
If
particularly.
you won it, man, I think that's, for a man who loves power as much as you do, I think you're playing the devil's advocate on that particular
Well,
point.
I'm just saying that because I want them to give me an award.
I think,
I have
yeah.
to say that I don't
You
want
don't
the
want it?
award. If I come out of this podcast and say, no, I need that goddamn award, I'm not going to get the award. So this is my point. Comedy gods, comedy industry. I don't care for the
I don't know what one has to do. I've won my share of awards.
You've won heaps of awards.
I've won
haven't
heaps
you?
of awards, yeah.
It's true. You're an award-winning comedian.
You only have to win one.
And you're an award.
It doesn't have to be a good one.
And that's your Oscar, basically.
And
Did you give
it's nice,
Did you
and
give
it
a speech
helps.
when you won the
It gets
award?
you to the next. I think we were like, oh, thank you. It
Well,
was a
that
bunch
was
of
your.
us. It was a bunch of us.
Did
who
you go
went
on?
to
Did you go on a rant about drag queens when you accepted the award? Because
I
that
don't
would
think
have
there were
hurt.
drag queens at that time. It was sufficiently long ago. Listen, I'm sick of this narrative that I'm anti-drag queen. Look at me. I'm Michael Shafar. I love drag queens. I have nothing strikes me as particularly repugnant about the act of drag queening.
Okay.
What I don't like is tedious performance. If you're doing the same
Right.
old thing, mouthing along to the same old songs in a dead-eyed shuffle.
Question for you then: are you okay with a very, very good drag queen, the best, the most excellent drag queen, reading a book to your children?
Again, why? What does that add to the book? What are we saying? Here's my.
Well,
I'm just asking
it's,
the
all,
question.
it's teaching your children excellence.
RuPaul doesn't put on a dress for fun. He puts it on because people pay him money to
Right.
put on the dress. Because
Okay.
it's hard work. Because it's a lot of activity has to go into looking as fire and as sensual and as wow as RuPaul looks. A lot of work has to go into that. If you just asked RuPaul to read a book to your kids, I think RuPaul would show up in a beautiful 3-piece normal suit that RuPaul
Right.
would wear every day.
But
The question
if you
is,
paid RuPaul to read to your kids.
right, but here's my question. Why would I pay someone to dress up like a hot woman to read to my kids? Man or woman?
Because they're the
why would
only people
why
reading
would-
to your kids.
Oh, please, I read to my kids all the time. We've got a beautiful family unit. That's all my question. That's all I want. I just don't know the answer. Like, what is to be gained? What do the children, for the literature, get out of seeing big hot plums up on display? What do the kids get out of that?
Okay, well, to play devil's advocate,
Yeah.
not even devil's advocate, I think this is a legitimate
come on.
argument.
Yeah, let's do it.
There are a lot of
You've been so
gender
desperate to get back to the
diverse
drag
children.
queens.
Sorry?
You've been so desperate to get back to the you think there are a lot of gender diverse children?
There are a lot of gender diverse children, lots of gay kids. They might not be aware of their own sexuality. And they see a drag queen and they go, oh, that's what I could be, or that represents something about me. It's okay for me to be myself because this is a person who is out in the public and proud and doing well. You know, that kind of representation can help some kids, can't it?
What a very boring model for a child. And what I like for our society, that we want our children to grow up and think that the best thing that they can do is express themselves physically in their clothes. Why not get, regardless of their sexual orientation, a computer programmer to read to the children, a Supreme Court justice, someone who does something meaningful
Well, Supreme
rather
Court
than
justices-
amuses 20 to 30 drunk people. Because let me tell you, when you're getting drag queens reading in the morning to school children, you're not getting the best drag queens in the business. You can't afford them, New York Public Library. You're getting B-level, can't get the good gig drag queens. That's what I'm complaining about here.
But that's why I'm asking
Bad
you the
queens.
question. If they had the best
Drag
drag
princesses.
queens.
These are drag duchesses.
The Duchess of Drag.
The Duchess of, yeah, that's actually pretty catchy.
Actually not bad.
pretty
That's
good.
your drag name.
Pretty good.
That's going to be you at the Adelaide Fringe next year. James McCann, the Duchess,
Duchess
of
of Drag.
Drag, and you'll win all of the
Man, if I
awards.
did do a drag show, I would be. I've already done a drag show. This is the other thing. I don't care. I dressed as a nun. I put on lipstick. I had a short skirt. I don't care.
Is that a drag?
How is that not drag? I looked hot.
I thought you had to be rainbow to be drag. Black and white outfit as
You
a
can be
nun.
a heterosexual. Oh, no, you're saying something different. Don't you diss my drag.
I'm not dissing your drag.
Michael,
I'm going to call this episode Yas Queen with James McCann.
how many A's you going to put in there?
7.
Thank you.
Mate, I think that's all the time we've got for today because
Now-
you're going to have to move your car again shortly.
I got a little while. You going to do my podcast?
Yeah.
All right, let's end this.
Let's
And
end
then you
this.
do my podcast.
And if you want to hear me and James talk more, tune in to the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran podcast.
It's close.
Because we're going to basically continue this conversation. Is that what? And then we'll, and you can listen to the second half of this podcast as his podcast. Thanks for listening.
Wow.